All righty. Good afternoon. How's everybody? Glad to see you all. Let me just give you, oh, no, it's not me. All right, so we finished last night with some homework of you going and doing some numbers for your own business. Just want to check in with you to see how that went. When you ran your own numbers through that formula, through that model that I gave you, what did you come up with in terms of appointments per week? Anybody want to share what they got? Okay, moving on then. So if just remember, any old number doesn't work. You've got to do the math to figure out what the number that really does work for you actually is, or else you're just waking up every Monday morning kind of hoping for the best. And if there's one thing that I have learned in 22 years of business and 51 years of life, is that hope is not a strategy, right? You've got to have plan. Then you have to figure out how to work that plan. So if you, just by a quick show of hands, who did the actual homework and ran the numbers and just isn't sharing? Okay, so that's one person. All right, Donna, what's your number?
My number is 2.
So 2 new appointments every week.
Correct.
Excellent. Julie, what about you?
I got 2 as well.
2, okay. Christine? 4 or 2? Gonna say, show off. So 2 as well. All right, anybody get a number different than 2 when they did their work? Again, there's no right or wrong answer.
Julie has her hand up.
Julie, was that 2? Did you give us 2?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
2.
Okay. Stephen?
I got 2 as well.
2, great. Stuart?
Rick, I wasn't on yesterday, but from previous Ignites, 2 is what I came up with in the formula. So 2.
Got
on
it.
that. Yep.
Cool. Right. And so remember, if your number is 1 or your number is 2 or your number is 17 new appointments every single week, there's no right or wrong answer. There's just your number that you have to then marry yourself to. Because if you're not going to marry yourself to the number that brings you the results, you won't then follow up with building a strategy around getting those appointments. And if you end up not getting the appointments, here's what I can tell you. It absolutely affects your income, right? So the big takeaway that I want you to jot down, make a mental note of, or do whatever with, is the number of appointments that you hit, new appointments that you hit every week, has a direct correlation to your income. Those are the 2 things that are connected, right? So the more appointments you have each week, the higher your income. The fewer appointments you have each week, the lower your income. And so if you build a business plan that says, I need 2 new appointments every single week, and on average, you're obtaining 1, that doesn't make you good, bad, or in between. It just says that your income will likely be less than what you were planning because your appointments are less than what you had planned, are fewer than what you had planned. Does that make sense to everybody? That connection? Any comments on that connection? Anything you want to ask? Any major epiphanies? Yes, Donna.
So I'm just going to be transparent here and say that 2 has been my number for a long, long time. And it always seems like, oh, it's just not enough. Am I really working full time if it's only 2? And yet, for the longest time, I wasn't hitting my 2. So clearly thinking about more than 2 was, at least hit 2. How about do that? And then finally, I think maybe it was the last time we did Ignite. It was sometime in the last 18 months, over and over and over again in different groups. people were saying, when you get your number, that has to be the floor. That has to be non-negotiable. That has to be 2 or better, but 2 is an absolute standard.
Yeah.
And then, things start to change.
Yeah, and so while you're unmuted, just let me ask you this question. So as things started to change, in your words, and you went from not really hitting your 2 to hitting your 2 more consistently, what happened to your income?
It went up.
Yeah.
It went up, it went up drastically, and it went up quickly. I capped the last time I capped in 6 months. Now, full transparency, it was the last 6 months of my cycle. So I was capped for like a day or 2, but still it made such a unique change, and it just became like my job. Ooh, there's a concept. It became like my daily thing that you just go find 2.
Yeah.
Or weekly thing. Sorry, weekly thing.
Yeah. 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 Well, and if you make it a daily thing, here's what's cool.
Yeah.
If you find 2 on Monday, well, then you can either overachieve that week or you can take the rest of the week off, right? Your choice. So I love the fact that we're thinking about those kinds of things daily. I love something called the 15th protocol, right? For those of you who don't know what the 15th protocol is, it's a way to look at your goals. It comes from looking at your monthly goals and hitting them by the 15th, so that you then have the next 2 weeks to either overachieve or sit back and take a bath. Not that you'd be in the bath for 2 weeks, but you know what I mean. Because you'd be very wrinkly, very pruny if you were in the bath for 2 weeks, right? But you see how that works, right? And so having a weekly number of 2, if you woke up Monday morning and just attempted to work through the activities that bring you results, and in that day we're able to find 2 new clients for 2 new appointments, okay. So again, you get to either overachieve that week, right? One of the things I used to do is figure out if my number was 2 and I got 2 in the first half of the week, I would attempt to then figure out another 2 before the end of that week, so that I was just ahead, right? I always like to have some in the bank just in case, because guys, guess what? Life shows up, business shows up, and there are some weeks that it's harder to hit the number. So to be ahead of the curve and then have a week where you don't quite hit the number, you're still ahead of the game for the month or year to date or however you're tracking that. Make sense? Okay, bonus. So if you haven't done that work, please go ahead and get that work done so that you know what that number actually is. So I want to just mention something to you. We are going to have a half session today. And that is because I am choosing Gary Keller over you. And I say that with all the love that is meant behind that, in that I'm choosing my monthly mastermind with Gary is at 4:30. And so I'm going to be on with you till about 4:40. And then I have Karen Mulreed coming in to just speak with you about a process for getting your buyers ready to buy in terms of financing. She usually comes in a little bit later. We're going to have her come in a little bit early because many of you are already finding yourselves in positions of needing to work with buyers, right? So to help you address that issue and concern of, are you certain that these buyers are able, right? We oftentimes hear ready, willing, and able as the criteria for valid buyers. We're going to ask you to move the able right up front. So you're going to look for able, ready, and willing buyers. And Karen's going to walk through with you what it takes to make sure that you have able buyers. Again, that's going to allow me to jump on with Gary. And the reason that really is for your benefit is because when I spend time with Gary, I learn things that I can then bring back to you. So instead of canceling Ignite today or canceling my time with Gary, I thought I would do a little bit of both. So I hope that that's a fair deal. I promise to bring you any wisdom I get from my time with Gary tonight back to you tomorrow and next week. But I will be joining Gary at about 4:40, and Karen will be coming in from 4:40 till about 5. And then at about 5, Karen's going to depart and leave you. Here's the fun news. You have an extra hour that you didn't think you had. So I'm going to right now show you where to get your materials and where to find that script book that I talked about last night online, so that you have an opportunity to then go grab that script book and start paging through that, so that when we come back tomorrow for a full session and we start with a conversation around scripts, you'll be that much ahead of the curve, having an opportunity to kind of pre-look at some of these scripts that we're going to work with you on tomorrow. So let me, if I could, bring up my screen. Is there anybody in the Zoom room that is not yet in our system? Okay, doesn't look like it. Looks like you're all in the system, which means you all have a login to my KW, right? Michelle does not?
I don't think I do.
Okay, and so which market center are you connected with, Michelle? The Ridgefield or Stanford Market Center?
I think Westport.
Okay, so that's the Stanford Market Center. And so I will have to have someone send you the script book if you don't have access.
Okay,
Right, and then we'll just double check with Sam while Adonis is still away. We'll just double check with Sam to see if you are in the system or not.
thank you.
You're quite welcome. All right, so let me share my screen with you. I want to show you where you go to grab all this great stuff, right? And so when you log into my KW, this is your home screen. My goodness, I couldn't figure out how to say that. Okay, so Christine, you'll take care of that for me. That's perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, my pleasure.
And so where you're going to go is from your home screen up here to the Education tab. When you click on the Education tab, what you will find is that it brings you to KW Connect. Now, just so you're aware, you all got an email from me earlier today with some really important dates that we wanted you to put in your calendar. And one of them was the Business Planning Clinic with Jean Rivers. And that is happening on the 20th and 21st of October from 1 until 5. So 4 hours, 2 afternoons in a row. That will happen right here on the homepage of KW Connect, right? So you'll get there the same way you'll get here. No registration necessary for that. You just show up on the 20th at 1 o'clock and Jean will speak to you through that platform on KW Connect, but this is where you go for that. Now, in order to find the materials that I'm talking about, you're going to do one of two things. Your homepage may look like this, where it has the Ignite icon right here in the middle of the page, and so you would just click on that. If for some reason your homepage looks different, you would go up here to the upper right corner and click on the search button, and then just type in Ignite and do a search for Ignite materials, and you get the icon that way. Either way, you're going to click that Ignite icon and it brings you to this page where you see student resources and instructor resources, right? If you click on the student resources, this is where each week or each day you'll come and obtain the power session, right? We sent you out power session 1 yesterday. We're going to stay in that today. Power session 2 will move into tomorrow, and I'll tell you before we leave each day which one you'll need next. You'll go through 1, 2, and 3, and then maybe a little bit of 4, and then we're going to come out of the materials for a bit, and I'll give you some other opportunities to work with script packages that I send you. But for at least the first couple of days, you'll be in these power sessions. Do note, we will not be working out of the French Canadian one. So you do want the one that says Power Session 2 Manual US. Ask Marcel, my French is terrible. I know how to say, hi Marcel, how are you? And she says, I'm fine, how are you? And I say, very well. And that's about the extent of our conversation. Right, Marcel?
Yes, that's true.
Thank you for your honesty. Someday you'll have to teach me how to speak fluent French, but until then, I'll keep asking you how you are. And so if you scroll down the bottom here, you have additional resources. And this is where that scripts kit comes in, right? You have a bunch of different things that you can kind of check out down here. But the one I mentioned was Ignite Scripts. And so when you click on Ignite Scripts, it will bring up a PDF of this awesome script book. And as you scroll through, you can see there are scripts galore for new to real estate, new to KW, reminding people you're in real estate, new to the area, calling for referrals, FSBOs, expireds, clients, you name it, it's in here. And then they've worked, those are all lead generation scripts, right? And then you have seller scripts and buyer scripts, including pricing and all that good stuff. So again, what I would love for you to do to prep for tomorrow's session, because we're going to talk about database and we're going to talk about you reaching out to your database in systematic ways. So I would love for you to download at 5 o'clock, go in and just download this. You can print it if you're more tactile, or you can just download it and look at it on your screen. Read through some of these lead generation scripts, pages 10 through maybe 20, right? And just familiarize yourself with what that looks like, what it sounds like, which ones do you like, which ones do you not like, what do you like about them, what do you not like about them. Kind of run through these scripts, these lead generation scripts, so that we have a firm footing for tomorrow that we can start from. If you don't dive into these scripts, you'll just be a little bit behind the 8 ball tomorrow, because we're not going to spend time in class looking at them. So if you could please check that out. Again, you have an extra hour tonight. So do check those out and make some notes, and we'll talk about them in 24 hours. Everybody clear on your task for between 5 and 6 tonight, and where to find the script book? Anybody not clear on that? Okay. I'm going to do one thing to make sure. From your homepage, you click on education. That brings you here to KW Connect, right? If you don't have Ignite on the homepage, you go up here and you click on search Ignite and you hit search, and your search results will bring you the Ignite icon, which you click on, and then ask for student resources, which brings you here for your power sessions each day. The manual is the US manual. And then at the bottom, you have other resources, including the Ignite scripts, which comes up as a PDF as a script book. Make sense? All righty. So Janine's question, is it in command? No, it is not. It's on the, you go from KW Connect, right? Not in command, in KW Connect. All right, perfect. So let us cruise forward. We have 20 minutes till Karen comes. And what I'd like to do is, if you have your materials from yesterday and you're following along, we're going to be on page 19 for just a smidge. And on page 19, you have a conversation about knowing your big why. So yes, we're interested in a little bit more head work today. And the big why, can anybody explain to me what they think the big why is and why we might talk about it in terms of a business conversation? If you've read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Gary talks about it on page 71, I think. Might be 77.
Your why is your fuel for keep going.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, John. And it is 77. So if you want more information in the red book, it's page 77. Right. And so John says that your big why is the fuel that kind of keeps you going. Here's why it's so important. Without that fuel, what I've learned in my career is there are days that I get up and I'm just not really interested in doing the things I'm supposed to do. Even though I know I'm supposed to do them, and I know that my income and my business growth depends on doing those things, there are just some days I don't feel like it. Anybody have any of those days ever? Or is it just me? Okay, well, minimally, Nick and Connie and I are all in the same boat. So if you guys have figured it out, please do let Nick and Connie and I know how exactly you figured it out, because we haven't figured it out quite yet, right? But the reality is that's what happens to everybody, right? How many of you get up and go to the gym every morning? How many of you get up and like I run, so I get up and run every morning. And you know what? In the middle of February at 5:30 when it's pitch black and like no degrees outside, I'm not interested. I like don't jump out of my bed really excited to go on my run. Frankly, I don't get up excited when it's 42 degrees, never mind, no degrees. And so what's the big why that keeps you moving forward? What's the big why that allows you, when you don't feel like it, to push yourself to do it anyway? And here's what I've learned from a business perspective or from an income perspective. Paying your bills, not a big enough why. How do I know that? How do I know that just making money to get by or making money to pay your bills is not a big enough why?
Because there came a point in time where you just had enough to pay your bills, and it wasn't enough to keep you going.
Yeah, so that's a good guess, John, and you're close. It comes from coaching real estate agents who come to me and say, you know what, I got nothing. Okay, well, let's go back and look at your activities. What activities have you focused on in the last 6 weeks, in the last 90 days? And the activities just aren't there. So clearly, having no money to pay your bills and doing the activities are not always connected. It's the big why that connects the two. So if the only reason you're getting up to go to work every morning is to pay your bills, and what I've learned over time is that for many people, that's just not a big enough draw to have them go and do the things they have to do to succeed. It says to me that too many people are willing to put themselves into that spot of not having enough. So you need something overarching. You need something bigger than that to pull you through. Because just paying Eversource doesn't get you there. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Rick, I agree with that. One of the things I always talk about, because I'm a big fan of the My Why, I've been doing it for years in my sales teams, is it's got to be emotional. It's got to be something that you really are passionate and care about. I mean, well, yes, we all want to pay our bills. No one gets excited and really passionate about it. It's about something like your family or a great trip or a great, personal treat to yourself, new car, new house, whatever. I think that's more of a motivational factor when it's an emotional connection to you.
Yeah, I love that. And so the fact that your big why needs to have an emotional attachment is a big deal. Here's the other side of that, though. It being emotional doesn't mean that it has to be earth-shattering, right? Like no one's asking you to go and find a way to become Mother Teresa. That's not the point. It doesn't have to be about saving the planet or saving the whales. It can be relatively selfish. It can be about you. It could be about, I'm going to tell you what, for a long time, my big why had everything to do with my own personal freedom. That's what drove me. It was a desire to, by a certain age, have the financial backing of having enough to be free, right? Which means I can choose to come to work or not. That's a choice that I get to make. And then as I got closer and closer to that big why, my big why shifted and it became more about my kids. It became about not even just providing for my kids. It became about, all right, well, so if I'm now able to provide for my children and pay for college and have that kind of handled, what's the next step? Am I driving towards a legacy to leave my children? Right? Am I driving towards a legacy to leave my grandchildren? Who don't exist, by the way. My children are still way too young, but right? So at some point there might be grandchildren. And so am I driving towards a legacy for them? Am I starting to earn money today to save for their college, even though I still have one of my own in college? right? And so you start looking beyond yourself, but don't be weirded out if your big why for you right now, the thing that really gets you up and gets you excited and going, feels a little bit self-centered. It's okay that it's about you, right? That's not selfishness. That's honesty about the thing that really drives you. Again, transparently, one of the things that really drove me throughout my entire 40s is that I like to make money. I really like to make money. And I am money driven. And the older I get, that's starting to change. Like it's starting, I understand now that money is awesome, but money is really more awesome for the good that it can do. And so now as I get older and more mature financially, I'm also maturing in other ways that allows me to figure out how to utilize those funds. But what drove me here today to be in front of you, from the time I was in my probably early 30s when we first opened our first office till today at 51, has a whole lot to do with the fact that I like to make money. It makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel accomplished, right? And so it was about money and about making myself feel good and creating an opportunity for my family. And once I got there, that's when things started to shift. And it became about other things, about other people, right? My point to you is, if your big why, as you do the homework on 19 to 23 or 22, I think it is, about building a big why, don't judge it. Just recognize that there are certain things that drive you and be okay with that. It doesn't have to be bigger than you. It can be bigger than you, but it doesn't have to be bigger than you. Questions, comments, concerns on big why conversation?
I read something in a book that I can't recall off the top of my head right now, but I think it was 48 Laws of Power, but don't remember. And pretty much there's a little story in the book, and it's pretty much said that there's a ruler who went to war in an island somewhere off, and when he landed ashore, his army he told him to burn all the boats, and he pretty much told the soldiers, like, the only way we're going back home is if we win. And his army destroyed the other army, took all their ships, and then sailed back safely home. And it's like their why was like they had no other choice, and that helped propel them to win the war, and then not only win the war, but to get home back safely and everything.
Failure is not an option, right? When you burn the boats. Mm-hmm. Right. I will tell you that when Debbie and I opened our first office, it took every last penny that we had to do that. Right. It wasn't like we had all this money just sitting around. We did have some money sitting around because of how we ran our business. So we did have opportunity money set aside, but that wasn't enough to open the first office. And so we had to go back and say, all right, well, what are we willing to do? I cleared out 401ks. I mean, it was every penny we had to open that first Keller Williams office 17 years ago. And I look back at that now and think, okay, that's a version of what John just said. It's a burn the boats. If it didn't work, well, we had just spent every last penny we had. So could we go and sell more houses and make more money? Sure. But we had a whole lot to make up for if this didn't succeed. And because this had to succeed, it succeeded at a really high level. Because there was no other choice. There was no option. There was no other side of that said, let's just try it. Right? I watched Empire Strikes Back over the weekend because it just happened to be on, because Star Wars is on pretty much every channel all the time. I got to hear Yoda say it all over again. Do or do not. There is no try. Right? So just do it. If it's a choice, just do it. If the other side of the coin is don't do it. Right? Who was on the James Shaw call this morning? Right? I know there were a couple of you who are on the James Shaw call this morning. And he talked about, it's just so much in your world is the same coin. It's just one side or the other. And so if the coin lands and you don't like the way it landed, well, just flip it over. It's just a choice. You get to make that choice, which is kind of fun, right? Because it puts you in control. You and Janet Jackson, baby, in control. I'm dating myself with that 1985 album reference, maybe 86 album reference. However, it is one of those classics. So your homework is to spend a little time reading through 19 through 21 in Power Session 1. And if you want more reading on it, on page 77 in the MREA. And start doing some work on that big why, because your business will succeed faster if you know exactly what your mission every morning is, right? You get up every morning to accomplish something. It pushes you forward. It's that burning inside that says, okay, I got to get there. And here's why. Here's what's driving me. And again, don't judge it. Page 77 in MREA will tell you that sometimes in order to find your big why, you've got to go through a bunch of smaller whys first. And that's okay too. You may struggle with, well, is it this or is it this? Well, maybe it's both for you right now. Maybe it's two things that are driving you. That's all right. Use them both. You'll either keep them or you'll outgrow them, or you realize one is bigger than the other and you'll kind of move one up in front. Remember, having the idea that you are in control of why you do something only allows you some more power over it. Oh, Marcel's giving me some French props. I appreciate that. I'm not sure I deserve it, Marcel, but I appreciate it. All right. We took care of our money yesterday. So let's do this. I'd like to just have a quick conversation with you around page 31 in your power session, right? And this will kind of be where you and I end tonight. Karen will be on in just a minute. And the idea is there are some habits that we want to be certain that you get yourself into throughout the time that you are in Ignite that will then follow you forever and ever, amen, as long as you're in business. And page 31 outlines those habits. Right, so let's go through those quickly. So the first habit is grow and manage your database. For those of you who were in the All Agent Business Mastermind earlier, you're probably just about had enough of the word database at this point. So the good news is I'm off in 5. Karen won't talk about your database. Although what would be cool is if you had a conversation with Karen around partnering with her to go into your database to make sure everybody that you care about in your database recognizes how enormously and ridiculously low interest rates are right now. Right, one of the best opportunities that you have for a conversation right now in your database is to give everybody a shout to say, hey, just checking in with you. You know, most of the people that I know have mortgages and interest rates are historically like obscenely, absurdly low. It's like free money. And so I wondered if it made sense for you to speak to a partner of mine and see how much money she could save you with a refi. Right? I don't know about the rest of you, but I refied a couple of months ago. My new rate is 2.75% for the rest of my entire natural life. That's like free money, 2.75%. And so imagine if you could make outreach to the people in your database who know you, like you, trust you, and are already predisposed to do business with you, to call and say, hey, how you doing? And then instead of asking them for business, you offer them an opportunity. Be careful that you don't make the mistake of thinking that everybody in your world knows what's going on in real estate. Be careful you don't make the mistake of thinking that everybody in your world knows where interest rates are. A lot of people don't have any clue around what's happening in our industry, and yet they're always interested. So one of the things that you could do is reach out to your database in the next 2 weeks and make sure everybody knows that with interest rates in the high 2s or low 3s, if their interest rate right now is 4.5 or 4.75 or 5 or 5.25 or whatever, depending on their loan size, they may have a couple of $100 a month in savings. I'll tell you a quick story. Lori Egan is one of your colleagues who has been doing this for the last 12 months or so. And I will tell you that not only has she found loyal clients, because she, just by having this conversation, she has saved those folks tons of money. I think the biggest one that they did was like $575 a month in savings in a mortgage payment. Can you imagine? People just weren't paying attention to it. And so she called and said, talk to my person. And she hooked him up with Bill McNamara at Westport Mortgage. $575 later. But here's what's cool. She's also taken at least 2 listings in the past 12 months because of this. Someone said, you know what, I'm not really interested in refining because I think we're just going to sell. Oh, okay, well, good news. I can actually help you with that as well. And the other one was, wow, thank you so much. I so appreciate the conversation that we just had about how much money we could potentially save me. It's interesting you called me today with that information because I was just at whatever. I was just at Thanksgiving. I was just at a block party. I was just at church. I was just at work, wherever this person was, and overheard one of my colleagues' neighbors, whatevers, talking about the fact that they needed a realtor. Would you mind if I gave them your information? Do you see how that's coming from contribution? Do you see how that's helping people? So Karen, we were just discussing that one of the cool opportunities that exists for everybody in this room right now is to partner with you to have a conversation with their database regarding refis, with rates being so low, helping them see by a connection to you how much money they could actually save by refinancing their house.
It's always worth a conversation. It's a 5-minute conversation, and I'll go over that with everybody today once we get started, if you like.
Love it, love it, love it. So growing and managing the database, right? That's what this is all about. It's about making sure that you start someplace with your database. By the way, for those of you who are unclear about where to start with your database, Debbie showed you some of where you start with collecting the names, right, inside of Command, your CRM inside of Command. But here's where I want you to start. Everyone has something that looks just about like this, right? It's called your phone. Everyone's got contacts in their phone. So for those of you who think you don't have a database, just start there. Do me a favor. Go to your contacts in your phone. Click Z and then scroll all the way to the bottom. So click on Z in your contacts and scroll all the way to the bottom. If you have an iPhone, it should tell you the total number of contacts in your phone.
Oh my God.
Right? Like pop that in your chat, in the chat, how many you have. I have 1,653. So again, for those of you who think you don't have a place to start with your database, I would encourage you just start where you are. Don't make it hard. 9,000? Holy crap, Christine. Okay, I was all proud of myself for 1,653, but Christine wins the prize on that one. 9,000. Jiminy crickets. All right, well, many are duplicates. All right, so she only has 7,000. All right, we know who the world knows.
Oh my gosh.
So moving us to Karen, here's what I want you to recognize. Those 4 powerful habits are growing and managing your database, prospecting. So it's creating your database and continuing to grow it every single day. It's then communicating with it, right? Otherwise known as prospecting, right? You communicate with your database. You don't like the word prospecting? That's okay. You call it something else. Call it care calls. Call it offering opportunities, right? Call it building community, whatever you want to call it. That's what that is, though. It's maintaining communication with your database. And then it's following up for the people who need additional follow-up. That could be with written notes, that could be with a text, that could be with another phone call, right? So you're going to build that database, you're going to create a loyalty program. We're going to talk tomorrow about the loyalty program that you'll use. It's called the 36 Touch program. And then follow up as things pop up. And then the last thing is start to understand the market, right? What that used to mean is go and preview houses or go to open houses. What it means today is know your market, know the market you're going to specialize in, and then just start online checking out the inventory. Start with our own inventory. What of our own inventory have you, do you know? What does it look like? What are the last 5 things that have sold in your price point that you want to specialize in your territory? What are the price points in your territory? What's the top number? What's the low number? Right? Start to understand the inventory a little bit better by spending more time in the MLS and spending more time online. We will hit each of those. I am late for Gary. Thank you very much. He believe it or not, he actually will start without me. So I am going to jump to him now. There was one question I wanted to answer from Janine. Advice for someone whose sphere is not here, brand new to Connecticut. Yeah, I get that. And so when I was brand new to real estate, I was also brand new to Connecticut. I only knew one person, and that was the guy who sold me my house, right? And so I simply started my business with strangers. I worked backwards. I did the backwards version of that. So instead of starting it with people I knew, I started it with strangers, which was expireds and open houses. And then I backed into, after my first year, backed into building that database and then starting to work with a database that way. I also communicated with a database that wasn't local, just in case anybody had referrals, right? So I used my non-local referral base. I built an agent-to-agent referral network, which we'll talk about on Tuesday. And to make the money faster, right when I got in, I went with strangers. I went the expireds and open house route. And again, we'll talk about all those strategies. All right, guys, I'm going to turn you over to Karen and Nancy. Karen, once you guys are finished,
We'll text you.
So they know their homework after post 5 o'clock. So I already covered that. So once you're finished, you can just kind of release everybody. I'll have you guys on my screen over here while I have Gary on my small screen, and I'll close down the room. Guys,
Okay,
thank you.
and we'll just text you and let you know that we've wrapped it up.
That's brilliant. Guys, I appreciate your understanding tonight. I promise to bring you some good nuggets back from my time with Gary. Have a good afternoon, and Karen and Nancy, take it away.
Thank you so much. Nance, are you unmuted? Unmute yourself, Nancy Morgan.
Oh, I'm unmuted, baby.
Okay, good. It's great to be here. Rick asked us to fill in this morning, so we are happy to have this opportunity with you. We want to touch on a variety of topics today. Is there anything you all would like to cover, and that if there's anything that you would like to cover, just speak up and we would be happy to touch on that and answer any questions that you might have. Any
Put it in the
topics?
chat and I can monitor the chat.
Karen, I'd love to hear more about that conversation and how we start that conversation. Just going off what Rick was just talking about reaching out to clients about refinancing.
Well, the first thing I do, and this is the same conversation that I have with my clients, because Nancy and I both have to prospect every day, and we call our database every day. And one of the things that we do is we can sort our database by, what rate they have. So anybody who has a rate of anything above 3%, we know that we can help them, and lower their payments. So we reach out, we call to see how they're doing, what's happening, in their lives, of course, and then, start talking about, I thought, and I always say, listen, it's a great time to refinance. I have a lot of clients, calling about it. Everybody's at least curious as to whether or not they can save money or maybe consolidate some debt. That kind of conversation happens all the time because people either have racked up a bunch of credit card bills, and the credit card bills, you're paying 16-18% on credit cards. If you could consolidate all of those, take cash out of your home and then pay those credit cards off and just have your mortgage, I've had clients save like thousands of dollars a month just by refinancing. So just telling them, hey, rates are still really low. It's a great time to refinance. I have, a partner you can call, Nancy or I. We can even reach out to them and, tell them it's a simple 5-minute phone call, because basically all I'm doing with anybody who calls in is asking them for a copy of their mortgage statement so that we can take a look. And most people can't read their mortgage statement. It's, you'll laugh at that, but they can't find their principal and interest payment. They don't know what their escrows are. Everybody kind of gets the statement and just pays it, and they don't look at it. So we will break it down and we will compare the principal and interest payment that they are currently have to what they could be paying. And I always think that if they can save at least $200 a month, then it's worthwhile. And none of these mortgages have any prepayment penalties associated with them. So if they decide, hey, they just want to pay it off and they don't want to deal with a mortgage anymore, that, they've either come into a bunch of money or have just decided like, oh, I want to retire, I don't want to have a payment every month, you can do that. There are no more prepayment penalties on any of those consumer mortgages. There used to be, but they are not anymore. So, and it's that simple, a phone call. And most of the time when I talk to a client or Nancy talks to a client about refinancing, the first thing we ask them is, what do you think the market value is of your home? And, a lot of them don't know, and they go onto Zillow, and we always downplay the Zillow because I don't always think that Zillow is accurate. So we then can reconnect them to the realtor that that helped them buy their home. Because you all know what the market's like. What houses have been going for, the house period, because you helped them buy it. So why not just refer them back? It offers you an opportunity to have that conversation. And it offers you an opportunity to reconnect where, you might not always, have the time, or that person may not be on today's list. But if we reconnect you, we feel like we're all working as a team. Let your realtor help you see what the value is. Let us help you see if it's worthwhile to refinance. And it's really just, we have a pricing engine. We plug in the value of the property, the type of loan that they might be looking for. And in that vein, it could be that they had a 30-year and now they don't want to start the 30 years all over again. They want to look at a 15-year. Or a 20-year, or an adjustable, because they might not be there as long as they originally thought. Or they might take an interest-only adjustable rate mortgage because those payments end up being really, really low. And for somebody who already has a bunch of equity in their house, an interest-only loan works perfectly for them. And on an interest-only loan, for those of you who are not familiar, you're only paying interest. So you don't reduce the balance of your loan until you pay principal. And you can decide to pay $1 above principal, $1 above interest. That dollar gets applied to the balance. And then the following month, the interest is calculated on the reduced balance. Those are great loans for commissioned, like we all are, bonused employees, because they can take large chunks and apply it to the balance and then and save money that way. Anything, Nance, anything?
Yeah, in addition, those are really good points. And hi, Christine. And hi, everybody. How you doing? Or if they're about to be paying for college and they really don't want to take out
Right.
the FAFSA loans, which are, 6 and 7%, but if they want to do, I'm just saying for an interest only or something like that. But Karen had touched on something. When Christine, when you asked about like getting in touch with your like database, it's similar like to what Donna was even talking about today and what Debbie Orr was talking about, just to reach out to them. They ask us like, what's going on in the market? They want to know, they want to be in the know. What scoop do you have? What type of thing? And sometimes if, you're just having that conversation with them, if they're into it. And if you think, well, I can, play around here. I plug in some numbers. What do you think the value is? And if they're saving $200 or even $165 a month, they're like, oh, $165 isn't very much. But if we look at it like, well, $165 is like $253 or $250 of earned income. So you have to earn $250 to spend that money you're already spending. And that to me has been a great tool to use if I explain it to clients, like, no, you're really saving even more because it's your pre-tax dollars have to go for that. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I've done a lot of 20-year mortgages. People don't really know that the 20-year is out there. And so let's say they've had their mortgage for 4 or 5 years and they want to go to a 15, and we do the scenario and I'm like, let's look at the 20 because it's still less than they're going to save those 5 years because they're not doing another 30 and they're going to be paying a little bit less already. It's fantastic. So it's just an option that we have. And like Karen said, I always go back to the realtor. Have you spoken with them? What do they think? And it does give us a chance to come back to you guys or, to the realtor. And we do that.
And, I also think like the refinancing conversation also has you coming from a position of giving back. It's not like you're asking them for any more business. You can ask them for business after that, but it's not you making that phone call to say, hey, I want more business from you. You're just really being, their friend, their kind of their financial friend or their real estate friend. And you're giving them information and you're sharing with them what might be a good opportunity for them. Hey, have you looked into refinancing? Because it's a great time to save money. And everybody wants to save money now. They've been saving a lot of money, all of these months with COVID because we haven't been going out the same way that we used to. So here's just another way to help them save. And maybe they can save a little extra so that maybe they can buy an investment property or they are going to buy a second home. Everybody wants to, I have a lot of clients coming in saying that they want to buy second homes now because they have so much more money saved and they don't want to do the same kind of traveling. So a vacation home sounds like a great idea.
And then in addition, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I just want to see if
just
that helpful.
2 other quick thoughts. One is sometimes if I'm doing a mortgage, let's say for a purchase, and they already own investment properties, or 1 or 2, and you're like, well, you get the mortgage statements for those, and you're like, you could really save a little bit of money here. And this can maybe help them if they refinance that other property in addition, because we do try to be helpful. Or ask if they want to buy additional investment properties, you could save some money here. And then sometimes they don't need to refinance them and,
yeah, we tell them
you're in good shape.
Yeah, I told somebody yesterday, you're not saving enough money to go through the process of refinancing. They were thrilled. They were happy to get good, honest advice. And he's, when he hung up, he said, I'll send my daughter over to you because she should find out if she should refinance. So, when you're in the spirit of giving, you get back. And, Nancy and I have been in this business for a long time. We do a lot of business and we, that one extra loan for somebody who doesn't need it is not worth it. It's, it's better off giving good advice and, getting more referrals from it.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Hi, so I was actually planning on trying to get into like investment properties for myself actually. So I was wondering, like, what's the biggest like factors to like purchasing power?
Oh, good question.
Well, I mean, on every single type of loan that you're going to get for any type of purchase, whether it's investment, or you're a first-time buyer, or a move-up buyer, or a right-sizing buyer, or whatever type of buyer you are, it's always and Nancy and I call it a puzzle. We look at income. What do you earn now? What have you earned over the last 2 years? And for salaried borrowers, it's their W-2 income. For self-employed borrowers, we look at the last 2 years of their tax returns. We look at dividend and interest income, Social Security, alimony, child support, commission bonus, any type of retirement or pension income. So we look at that, right? Because the lender wants to make sure you have the income to support the new debt. Then we look at your savings. Okay, do you have the money for down payment? Do you have money for closing? Will you have some money left over? Especially if you're buying investment property.
Reserves.
You have some, we call them reserves. That's a technical term that we use for them, but you need money if you're going to have a couple of homes. If something breaks down, or if something goes wrong, or something happens in your life that you don't expect, you want to have money set aside that you can dip into kind of your emergency fund, to pay for those things. We look at credit, because the lender believes that if you pay your current creditors on time, that you will pay them on time too. And then they look at your overall debt to make sure that you're not taking on more than you can handle, because responsible lending is what it's all about today. And we have never seen such lower default, like on the mortgage broker side of the business than now, because, aside from COVID and that came up with that, the people who couldn't afford their job, couldn't afford their payments because, of job loss. Aside from that, we have never been in a better position as mortgage brokers, with regard to responsible lending, because we look at those 4 areas for every different type of loan.
Hi, Karen.
Yes. Now, John, just one sec, Silva. John, does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Nance?
But you have to have been, if you're self-employed, a realtor is self-employed, you have to have been in the business at least 2 years to qualify. You have to be in the same self-employed business for more than 2 years. So for anybody, and sometimes if someone says, I just started 6 months ago, that's kind of tough. Does that help?
Silva, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I just want to make sure we answered John's
No,
question.
that's okay, because I have to go shortly. Thank you. So I work with lots of investors, and my question is kind of twofold. Like, first, is there a tool that you can help with to determine the rate of return of an investment if we know the price, and then if we know all the other components like the common charge, the taxes, and then how much the property will rent for? And then the second portion of this question is, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say someone is purchasing cash, the investment property cash, and after they pay for all the expenses, they zero out. So in other words, they don't put in pocket any profit, but at the same time, they also don't pay out of pocket. So it's kind of evening out. Is this still considered a good investment in case I already know that the rate of return is 5% and above?
I always defer to, Rick has a spreadsheet that he uses to calculate whether the particular property is a good investment. If you've ever gone to his class, and I'm sure he would be happy to share with you his.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I use that because I think that everybody's threshold is a little bit different. What he knows he needs to make on a property versus what somebody else thinks they need to make on a property might be 2 different things. I don't think you can answer, I don't think I can give you a blanket number.
Right, and I have attended Rick's class like 3 times. I've watched it. I have the spreadsheet. His spreadsheet is slightly different and it's geared towards buying multi-family properties. My question is more likely geared towards buying a condo, which is completely different. Also, Rick's philosophy is completely different from the across the board investors here who are buying condos. So that's why I asked you the question the way I did.
Well, I mean, I think whether you're buying a condo or a multifamily, it's the same concept. I mean, you're either, earning enough money from the investment or you're not, it's either costing too much for to make those payments or you're not. I mean, am I missing something? Anybody else have any thoughts on this?
I kind of had
think
a
it's the
question
same.
while we're, another question. It's still in the realm of like investing. So like my plan was to like initially, because I don't have enough money to just buy like a straight out investment property like elsewhere, so I was thinking about house hacking and potentially using me and my friend, we're pretty much planning on using our house, our money together to buy a house, like a multi-family unit, and have the other units rented out. That way, the rental income that we would get from the other units would eventually pay for at least some or part, or like most of the mortgage, decreasing our costs that we would have to pay out of pocket.
Right, you can certainly do that. On a single family, you can put, I think it's 15%, Nance, that they change it to 15% down or 20% down on a single family.
Yeah,
And
you can do 15% now because they're loosening the guidelines on investment properties, but still 25 on a 2, 3.
2 to 4 unit.
Yep.
So 25% down on 2 to 4 unit. We also have, and when you're buying investment property, the cheapest way to buy investment property is to get a conventional loan. I mean, it's always going to be that way, no matter what type of property you're buying. If you document your income and your savings and your credit and your debt, you get the cheapest option. It's just that simple. But there are cases where people can't always do that for one reason or another. There's two solutions we have for that. Like John, if you wanted to get a multifamily and either of you wanted to live in it, you could buy a 4-family. You could live in it, and it would be owner occupied, but you would still have the benefit of the other 3 units, helping to offset the payment. And you could get an FHA loan for that. So 3.5% down on a multi-unit, and you could live in it, and you could, get a feel for what it's like to be an investor.
Is that what you're thinking of doing, John?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Like recently, I've been
yeah.
doing a lot of like research, and like I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos trying to look into FHAs and like requirements, guidelines, credit scores, pretty much all the stuff. I've been trying to, because I know investing is if your money is not working for you, it's pretty much always depreciating because of inflation. So I've been trying to find ways to like make investing in real estate a reality for me. And as I said, like the cost of living is way too expensive here to just buy an investment property outright. So I was like trying to get a little more creative instead of just giving up completely. And that's when house hacking and using potentially an FHA loan to get an owner occupied multifamily unit, renting out those units. I know you have to live in it for at least a year. And then once that year is over, save more of my money because my mortgage and my cost of living will be down. And then for the second year, do the same thing and find another multi-family unit. And because now I'm a licensed real estate agent, closing costs are going to be a lot more cheaper. That cost could then be brought in to cover, a little bit like renovations, is like they get new appliances or something like that. And then when I come to get my second property, by that time around, like this first unit is going to be fully rented out, and then I have units rented out. And then from there, that cash flow is going to start like slowly snowballing. And my goal is like, I want to have like 5,000 like a month in cash flow from rental properties. And so the first 2 years are going to be pretty slow because I'm going to have to house hack. And FHA loans, like aren't the best because they have the upfront mortgage insurance premium that you have to factor into everything.
Let me stop you right there, though. You know
Yeah.
what? The FHA loan, even though it has upfront mortgage insurance, okay, that's their administrative fee. That's what FHA charges.
Yeah.
I say, and I don't mean to be this cavalier, but so what?
Yeah.
I mean, that's your cost of doing business, right?
Um,
You are getting for the
mhm.
privilege of putting 3.5% down on a
At a lower
4-unit
rate.
property. You can't
Yeah.
beat it. The rate, I think last week the rate was like
2.3.
2.25 or something like that. 2.3,
And like,
75.
right, like I have someone now who's buying a multi-two family and they actually live there. So they're going to, rent out the other side, but they're doing an FHA and we went with the higher rate because he's getting like $6,000 lender credit to help cover closing costs. So there are definitely options out there to do. Even for people buying a regular property who need to do FHA. And FHA expects that people will refinance because typically, it's maybe someone who's younger in their career and they're starting out. And so they expect that they'll, do better and get rid of the MIP and everything. But that is, and they factor that into the loan amount. And it's still, if you do a side-by-side comparison, it's often pretty affordable.
I mean, FHA allows for lower credit scores, higher debt to income ratios.
Yes.
Remember, a higher debt to income ratios doesn't mean that somebody can't afford it. Sometimes their income isn't, documented in the way that, sometimes you're not using a spouse. Sometimes you're just using one spouse. You're not using the income of the household. So, the debt ratios seem a little bit higher, but, that's fine. Sometimes you can't count someone's bonus because they haven't been getting it as long, for 2 years, maybe even getting it for 1.5 years, but the lender wants to see a 2-year history. So if you need to use commissioned income or bonus to income, sometimes you can use it, sometimes you can't, but with FHA, you have the luxury of having a higher debt ratio and they will still approve the loan. You don't need reserves with FHA typically. It's really geared for first-time home buyers, but now all of these products are geared to every type of homeowner because, lenders want to lend and, buying a home is, the American dream. And they want everybody to enjoy the wonderful feeling that you have of home ownership.
We have another question from John Catazone. Can we move on or no?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just cut right in.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so John's question is, hi, can a couple qualify for an FHA loan if one spouse already has owned a home? So John, does this mean, are you saying that they don't own a home now? Do you want to say something? Or they own one property and they're going to buy another one to live in? Because FHA has to be a primary residence only. So
Yeah, so the wife previously owned a home. They're renting now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the husband hasn't owned a home before.
The
problem.
FHA is not a first-time homebuyer program, actually. You can, that's a CHFA loan or, but that is FHA, you do not have to be a first-time homebuyer. Yay.
But to qualify for the 3.5% down,
Absolutely.
you have to be a first-time home buyer? No.
No, there's no first-time anything in FHA. FHA does not equal first-time homebuyer at all.
So I was actually doing some research myself. So I believe if you have a 500 credit score, you're required to put 10% down. But if you have at least above a 580, then you can access the 3.5% down. If I'm not mistaken.
That's a, it's a combination of things with FHA. They will go down to 580 for sure. But depending upon what the total picture looks like, we will let the buyers know what their minimum down payment can be.
We have another question here. Okay, so Courtney asks, with an FHA loan, this is a great question. Does the house need to be turnkey with no major repairs?
No, I mean, you can do
Right.
an FHA. You know, if you're just buying the basic home and, you know, there's minor things wrong with it. You know, no home is perfect. The FHA worries about health and safety issues. So for instance, I did a mortgage one time for somebody, they opened their sliding glass door and there was a big drop. Like there was no deck, no steps, no nothing. That was a no-no. That had to be repaired. If there's a big gaping hole in the roof, that has to be repaired prior to close. If there's
Peeling
mold,
paint is the other one.
right?
Peeling
We don't
paint
like
is
peeling
like the biggest, and like peeling paint. It's like, what's the big deal with peeling paint? Because it is a safety issue, because if you have peeling paint, you can get water into it, you can get mold into it, you can get little critters in there. And so that could depreciate the value of your home and your ability to, you know, kind of live in it. So that's why they recommend that. And we work with people. Like right now, I've got someone, they've got a garage that has some shingles that are, and the appraiser took a picture and like it's subject to, and subject to the appraisal means that the repairs that are noted have to be remedied, they have to be fixed, and the appraiser has to go back out and then he will complete the report as is. So right now we have this, it's got to tack up the couple of the shingles and put some kills on, you know, they don't even care. Like the appraisers will really try to help, and they're like, and then you have to get them back out. So that's why it's good to work with us, so we can help you and help your clients to be able to, you know, get the house without the maximum, you know, railings on stairs, they have to have those. So, and the FHA is just, they're guaranteeing the mortgage, you know, the mortgage insurance and the mortgage. So.
But FHA also has a renovation loan. So if
Yeah,
there are
correct.
major
Right.
repairs or, you know, any type of repairs that need to be done, and the buyer wants to, you know, to make any repairs to the house or put in a new kitchen or, you know, redo the bathrooms or whatever they want to do, FHA has a renovation version of that loan. And it will renovate, they will get the money they need to renovate. As long as they qualify for the dollar amount, you know, of the loan, they can get a renovation loan. So that, you know, Fannie Mae has a renovation loan. We do them all the time. So if, you know, a house needs some renovations, that's a perfect loan. I'm sorry, who did I cut off?
It's Christine, or I'm sorry, who am I cutting off?
No, I was just gonna mention, I think that loan you guys are referring to is a 203K loan, correct?
The 203K, it's called a 203K loan. And yes, it's a renovation loan.
So are these renovation loans for buyers, or could they also be for sellers who are thinking about selling down the line?
Yeah, you can refinance with those as well. What you would do is you would get plans and specs to do your renovations. So you say you're purchasing, so you're purchasing at, you know, $400,000, the house needs $100,000 worth of work. Do you add the 4 to the 100,000, you know, in work, you have $500,000 in total loan that you need. So now you're putting 3.5% down of 500,000.
Okay, and then for the sellers who want to fix up their house before they sell it to get top dollar, how does that work?
You can either do a 203K FHA, or we have what we call the Fannie Home Style Loan, and that's a renovation loan for conventional loans. And it's the same thing. You would take your mortgage balance, you would get plans and specs for the work you want done, and now you add the two of them together, and that's, you know, where you derive your loan to value.
And what if somebody gets that loan and decides not to sell their home? Is there any penalty? Like they decide they love it so much they want to live in their home?
No, I mean, the one thing is they don't, if you are thinking, right, if you are thinking of selling, you have your house on the market, nobody wants to refinance you. because they don't want the loans that are going to flip like that. They want to know that you are, planning to live there for the, the long term, whatever that is. You can't tell somebody to have to live someplace forever because, life changes, things happen, and, 6 months, 8 months, a year from now, you could decide, even after you think you're going to be somewhere forever, what if you get this big job opportunity and you want to move someplace else? Or you get an increase in income and you want to buy up, or your family grows and you want a bigger house, or vice versa. So you can use those for renovations, but you need to know that you're going to stay in your house longer term because they're not using them for flipping.
Got it. Okay.
If you do want to, if you know in advance that you're going to, do some work on the house, then, you should. Let's see, how could we do that? Either.
I don't really know that anybody would go through that effort
Right.
of getting all those plans and specs to do a renovation loan, like before you submit the application. I mean, there's paperwork that has to be done. It's fair enough, but your contractor has to get all of those plans and specs and then do the renovation and then sell the house. Yeah, it's probably, I don't know. Do you have someone like that, Christine?
I did about a year ago, and they were asking about, like, does it make sense? And it does come up a lot. The buyers these days, they really want move-in ready kitchens and baths. So many times my seller said, should I update the kitchen or the bathrooms? And obviously, all depending, it makes sense, or maybe it doesn't make sense at all. So it certainly does. It does come up.
Yeah, it does come up. I agree with you, Christine, for the exact same reason. So whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, I'd just like to know, is there a penalty if they were to take it out? Let's say they fully intended to do it and stay. That was fully their intention when they applied. And then life showed up and they're now going to move within a very short period of time after they finish the renovation.
So if they complete the loan, they complete the renovation, there is no prepayment penalty in the state of Connecticut. It is illegal.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because almost every house that isn't in pristine shape, we're always asked, should I update the kitchen? Should I remodel the floor? Should I finish the basement? Whatever the case may be.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, for something like
Happened to
that,
me,
wouldn't you just,
yeah.
You said for something like
just-
that. Right.
couldn't you just do a home equity loan? Just on the side, do a home equity loan, fix up your kitchen or whatever you want to do. And then whether you sell or you stay, I mean, it's a separate loan. You pay that off.
That's an option.
I'm totally with that.
I agree.
Or borrowing from your 401k if you're going to be able to replace it really quick. I think it's quick money. You don't have to provide plans and specs. All you're doing is taking the money, using it, doing whatever you need to sell your house, and then you sell it and you're done. If you're going to go through the whole, like Nancy said, the whole renovation loan, you're going to stay there. I mean, that's what really those are mostly geared for. People who want to stay or people who are buying and the house isn't the way they want it. It's a great opportunity when you are buying to get more money, because how do you get more money? It's so much cheaper to borrow the money than it is to work for it, save it, and then spend it. You might as well do it all in one.
And then you don't really have to go through the gymnastics of dealing with a bank or, sorry, Karen, or with a mortgage company.
Those are fighting words right there.
I'm sorry. No, that's not the way I meant it, but it's,
I know, I'm kidding.
there's a certain amount, there's a lot to do to get the mortgage. It's a lot easier to just get to your little checkbook.
Right.
Well,
it just depends.
If you're using
Depends what you need.
Frank's idea, which is a fabulous idea, write the check.
Right, do what you have to get the house sold, you know, and and you know better than I do, or, you know, we do, whether or not, you know, updating something makes sense, and are you going to reap the benefit of that, or are you going to, is it gonna pay off for you to do that, or you just sell it for a little bit less because it's not perfect? I mean, you know better than me.
Right, like where's your break even point? Like how, like, I had a house, I sold my house 3 years ago, and the kitchen needed to be renovated, updated. I got new appliances. I wasn't gonna spend my money and blood, sweat and tears and aggravation, waiting on other people to, and it was, and I did a few things, but I didn't do anything major because people were like, it's not worth it. And I agreed with that. So that's where you guys come in very handy, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, that's where you're invaluable.
I saw another question about what if you can't document your income? We have loans for investors and for your own, you know, primary residence home, or to buy a second home or whatever, that don't require that you document your income. We always take a look though to see if the income can be documented, because that's the cheaper way. You know, we want what's best for the client. You know, it doesn't matter to Nancy or I what loan anyone takes, because we get paid the same on the loans, whether we give you an adjustable or a fixed or an FHA or a conventional loan. So we don't really care. We look at what's best for the client, and then we choose the loan accordingly, because we're getting paid from the lender the same anyway. It doesn't matter what the rate is. So it's always in our best interest, you know, to give the lowest rate possible, because that's what people want. We want to make them happy, and we want them to have a wonderful experience. So we get paid the same. So, you know, if anybody ever says, oh, it's expensive to, you know, my rate will be higher if I'm working with a mortgage broker. Well, that's wrong, because we get paid from the lender, and you know, just like you get paid from the seller, we get paid from the lender. But there are loans where you don't have to document your income. I just recently helped a woman who is in between jobs. She had the money for down payment. She had really, you know, a good credit score, and she bought a house, and she did not document an ounce of income. So it required her to put down more. She put 25% down, but we got the loan. Same with an investment property. They'll use the cash flow on the investment property to qualify that property for a loan. So instead of you using your income, you're using the income from the property. Is it a bigger down payment? I think it's 20% we could do it, or 25% on those down payments. And you can easily not document your income. You can't have a 580 credit score and not document your income. That doesn't work. Because remember, the lender looks at the credit score with the idea, if they pay their creditors on time, they'll pay me on time. And that's what they're thinking. It's, you know, it's the same kind of basic concept that you would use if you were going to lend anybody money. Sorry about that. You know, if you were going to lend somebody money, you want to know they have the ability to pay back. And that's what lenders are looking at too.
I got a question for Nancy or you, Karen.
Sure.
If I go to see you and I'll make all my applications, what's the advantage financially of me working with you or going directly to Bank of America?
I can start by answering that.
Thank you, Nance.
So many reasons why. I'm
trying to.
I'm dead serious, actually.
I know you are, Nancy. I'm just thinking if
I'm going to give you some answers, because because we are a broker, and for example, I have friends who work in big banks, and I have friends who work for smaller banks and correspondent lending, and we have a little group chat. And today one of them said, what are you getting on a New York condo, 20% down, great credit, and it's a co-op? And I said, he said, I have 3.25. And the other guys from the big bank said, we're 3.25. And I was like, hold on, let me see. And I put in the same parameters. I said, we're 2.99 with a $1,500 lender credit to the borrower to help them lower their closing costs. So that is number one reason. Number two, we're local, we're here. We live in this community. We see our clients at the grocery store, where, you know, wherever we see them out for coffee. And so we really have a reputation that we care about, and we work on a referral basis, and we love what we do. And so that alone, but they pay less. So there's nothing different. The loan officers at these banks, there's no like magic bullet, I guess what it is. And we have the best processors in the country. And I mean that. So, as I've not been at Westport Mortgage for 18 years, I was there for 5, and I've been back a year and a half, and it's just, I think it really does make a difference.
I'm just trying to find out, you know, if the client says to you, you know, why do you want me to go to a mortgage broker when I, you know, I'm really friendly with Grab It and run savings bank.
But that's
Because nobody's
do that. Yeah, I mean, it's their choice of who they want to work with, but it certainly is them to investigate and see, you know, what works for them and what doesn't work for them. That's all.
I mean, there's 2 other reasons why I think you want to work with us as opposed to any big bank. With us, you are special. Everybody who walks in the door is special. We're not giving out, you know, we don't have savings accounts that we give out. We're not looking for your investments. We're not looking for anything else but mortgages. That's all we do. And you are special. You know, we have that boutique feel, but we have the technology and the rates of all, you know, big lenders, you know, local and across the country. Also, we have 25 different lenders that we have relationships with. So it's the same as you. Do you just sell in Stamford or Ridgefield, or do you sell all of Connecticut and New York too, because you have access to the multiple listing service? So that's one thing. But we have the rates and products of 25 lenders instead of just going to a Chase or a Wells, where they only have the products that they have and the rates that they have for that day. They can't access and shop the way we can for you. Even if you went online, you cannot shop for a mortgage and look at rates like we can in minutes.
It's one application goes to you as opposed to, you know, me sending one application to Wells Fargo, to Citibank.
Right, which you'd never do. They're so slow anyway, because nothing's important. You know, they don't care the same way that we do.
Okay. Thank you, both of you.
And if you ever have a question, you know that you can get a hold of us almost 24/7. You can ask Silva that. She'll tell you.
Silver's not there, but I'll put a little plug in for Westport.
Okay, thanks, Donna.
So Nancy and Karen and Paul, everybody, wonderful. Their back room is amazing. They can get stuff through underwriting. They can get problems solved like that. You don't get access to that when you go other places. And that getting it done when you hit a little bump or a snag, it is amazing what they can do. There you go.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Donna's been working with us for years and years and years. She just looks really young.
She only looks 22.
So those are the reasons why you want to work with us. If you have if you have a question, or with your clients, if they have a problem or a challenge, you can, get to us directly anytime so that, we can all help. If they go to some big bank and you're calling, 1-800, the black hole, you're never going to get any answers. They don't want to talk to you the same way that we do. We have relationships with you. We care about every single one of you. If you succeed, we succeed. It's just that simple. The big banks just don't care. No.
So I had a quick question. So, for you guys, I know you guys are a Westport Mortgage, but are you guys able to lend in other cities and other parts of Connecticut? Because I'm located down here in Stamford.
Yeah, everywhere in Connecticut and everywhere in New York. You're licensed within the state. You're not licensed per city. We're licensed for the state of Connecticut. In fact, we just took our continuing ed, so we are in business for a whole nother year. And we're going to be taking our New York continuing ed in the next couple of weeks as well. So yes, somebody else had a question. Nance, can you see it?
Michelle has a question. Where could we get an info marketing piece that summarizes your info, something we could share? Great question. We have, we'll put a few things together and send it out to you guys. Because
Yeah,
we
I
do have
sent,
some things
I
that would be
sent Rick
helpful.
some stuff earlier, but we'll send some other things out too that'll have, and it'll have Nancy and my information attached to it. So you can always read, you know, have your clients reach out to us. And really, we don't bite. So if you ever have a question, you know, please feel free to ask. Neither one of us can sell homes and we don't know how to sell a house. And if we had to sell a house, we'd have to reach out to you and ask you lots of questions. So please, you know, you can't be expected to know how to sell a house and how to finance the house. It just, you know, it's impossible to know. Just like I tell everyone, if you have a legal question, ask your closing attorney. I can give you some insight just because we know about the process, but we don't give legal advice. We're not accountants. We don't tell people how to structure their returns, but we know about tax returns. So, you know, we want you to be we want to be able to give you the talking points that you need to enlighten your buyers about, or sellers, on what they can do, but we don't expect you to be an expert in it.
And then in addition, hopefully it's helpful, like the more I know about real estate, I would never attempt to really ever say anything about us. The more I know, the more if I'm talking to a client, a borrower who's buying a house, I have more of a rapport with them, the more I know and the more we can have conversations. So it hopefully is helpful, you know, the mortgage minutes, you know, on the 9 o'clock Zoom, hopefully they're helpful as well. Just a little bit of information to maybe give you a leg up, you know, or to listen for something that, you know, whoever they're working with, you know, hopefully us, but if something comes up so that you're in the know and then you can, you know, share what you need to share and things like that.
Yeah, even if you have a question about a deal that we're not working on, but you need some mortgage advice, I mean, you know, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. That's why we partner with Keller. I mean, you know, we enjoy working with you all. We know we can't work on every deal, but if you have, you know, a question and you're not getting the response that you need from whoever the lender is on that deal, please reach out to us. We're happy to help and we're happy to give our input and our perspective. Anybody have? Go ahead.
Yeah, with that being said, can you guys put your contact information in like the chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here, Karen, you do you, I'll do me. Or you want me to?
Okay.
Or you do mine and I'll do yours.
Go ahead, put it in. So just so that, you know, I'll touch on one or two things and then we'll let you go because I know we've been doing this for almost an hour. There are all types of mortgages, fixed rates, adjustables, interest only, FHA, USDA for anybody who does USDA. We have VA loans, 100% financing, no mortgage insurance. Jumbo loans, lots of jumbo players in the marketplace now because prices have increased and every lender wants to get into that jumbo market. So there's really nothing that we can't help with. We love investors. We love those move up buyers. We love first time buyers. There's nothing better than helping to educate, you know, a first time buyer so that they really feel comfortable buying their first home. They're comfortable at the closing. They're not worried about it. We sit down, you know, on a Zoom or on the phone with every client and go through the process so that they know what to expect and when. We have a processor that's assigned to each loan that works with Nancy and I, Terry, Carissa, and Nikki. Those are our processors, and they will hold your client's hand every step of the way from the time it goes into, it gets registered with the lender up to closing. There's nothing better for us than qualifying your client so that they can go out shopping with you and feel good and comfortable. Like it's going to be a fun experience with you because you're the fun. Nancy and I aren't fun because we're, looking at income, savings, credit, and debt. But once they go through that and we've talked to them, then they know that they can buy something at 500 or $1 million or 2 million or whatever, and then they can enjoy the shopping experience. Just like you all know, you go into a store, if you know you have to look at the price tag of everything and worry about whether or not you can afford it, it takes the fun out of shopping. Well, it does for me, but if you know what your price point is, you're only looking at homes in that price range, and that's what we do for your clients before you take them out.
And then the other thing, I know Karen does it, I do it as well. One, I pre-qualify somebody, let's say they have a price point in mind. I will send them a loan summary and estimate of closing costs. And I really, we get back on the phone and we go through this one piece of paper because people want to know what it's going to cost. What's this house going to cost? My monthly payment and the closing costs. And this breaks it down, who belongs to what. And they will say, thank you, or, okay, now I have a better idea. And I'm like, can I run other scenarios? If you're out looking at houses, you see a house you like, text me what it is, I'll run the numbers for you, because the property taxes are different, or different HOA fees, or if it's in a flood zone type of thing, flood zone, we need to know that too, to get an estimate. So I think that that's really important, because I do believe that their goal is to find the right house. And so if they can kind of get this part taken care of, they can really focus with you on the right house.
And if they need multiple pre-approval letters, qualification letters, we are happy to do that. So if we know that they're qualified, we always try to let them know what the max is that they qualify for. So if they're qualified for a $600,000 house, if you find something at 500, we'll give you that for 500. The next one might be 550. Don't hesitate to call us to, have those numbers changed, because, that's a strategic part of how you present your offer. And we want to make sure that, we're available for all of that. So if you need multiple letters, we'll give you multiple letters, whatever you need. Does anybody have any more questions? I know we've taken a bunch of your time.
Good questions.
And, or else I will let Rick know.
Great
Does
audience.
let Rick know that we have touched on almost everything, I think, right?
Quite a few things.
I will let him know if you would like. Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, we will let him know that we are ready to pass on to him. And please don't hesitate to give us a call when you have a question. If you have a client, if it doesn't work out, if you're just trying to see, does the client qualify for anything? Are they eligible to buy? Let us know. We can find out that information in 5 minutes. My son, when he was young, used to sit in the car with me while I was on the phone, and, he would listen to the conversation. And at some point, he was like in high school, oh, Mom, they can't buy, or yes, they can. And he would know right away. It's, it's what we do. So, we have a 5-minute, 10-minute conversation with someone, and we can give them a ballpark idea of where they, of what they can buy and how much purchasing power they have. And if we take it one more step further and actually look at their pay stubs and their W-2s and their tax returns and their bank statements, then we can pinpoint that number for you. So reach out. All right, I think we might be able to just leave. I don't know if Rick is coming back.
He's not
Karen,
coming back.
he was on a call. He's probably not coming back.
Okay, all right, I will
All right,
then let
everybody,
you all
thank you
go.
so much.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much.
Great information.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you,
Have a
everybody.
great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy Wednesday. Bye. Bye, Karen.
Bye.